A very good afternoon to all my dear students. So today we are here to complete our chapter number 2, and if the time will permit, we will definitely start with chapter number 3, right? So let us just quickly start with the topic that we have to cover for today. So students, today we'll be starting with audit program. So the chapter name is audit strategy, audit planning, and audit program. In the last session, we have covered all the topics relating to audit planning and audit strategy. Right? I hope it is clear to you, and I hope that I asked you to go through the module in entirety, including the questions and the examples, illustration, that whatever is given in your module. So I'm assuming that you all have gone through that, right? Once I complete this audit program topic, I'll just give you a quick recap of the entire chapter, and then only we'll start with chapter number 3. So what is audit program? So see, once the overall audit strategy has been established, that is going to help the auditor in developing a detailed audit plan. So once the overall audit strategy is established, auditor develops a detailed audit plan. And we have seen that these two are what interrelated. Why? Because change in one will lead to a change in another. So these two are closely related. You cannot say that once overall audit strategy is established, then audit plan will be developed, and then there will be no changes or no changes with respect to overall audit strategy. These are closely linked, and the changes in one will lead to changes in the another. Now, what is audit program? So see students, when just imagine yourself that you are going for the audit of a company ABC Limited, and let's say you are checking the sales transaction, right? So what all documents or what all audit procedures come to your mind that you are going to perform? So students, please reply, Bhumika, and others also please reply. So I've asked you that you have gone to conduct the audit of ABC Limited, and with respect to the company, more specifically, I'm talking about sales transactions. So what all documents come to your mind? So there can be various documents like sales invoice, right? Then it can be in the form of external confirmation from the debtors. Then it can be checking of the GST records, right? The agreements with the parties. So there are various documents, right? So an audit program, it gives the audit team a list of the audit procedures that can be performed specific to, for example, we discussed about sales transactions. So specifically what all can be checked, and Bhumika is saying, ma'am, bills receivable, invoices, right? Then direct information, which is absolutely correct. So in your module, students, a sample, just a minute. Sample of audit program is given. Let us just have a look at that, and then we will do other topics relating to audit program. So I am on page number 2.25 of your module. So see, extract of a sample audit program pertaining to sales. So there will be audit program covering the entire set of transactions that is to be checked, right? And in a very general language, it basically means that it is containing all the steps that the audit team or the person who is particularly checking, let's say, sales transaction, the steps that he need to follow, the documents that he need to check, right? So it will be mentioned there that who has prepared that audit program and who has reviewed it. If you remember, we have done a topic of direction, supervision, and review, right? And who has approved it. Let's say it is prepared by one of the article assistant. It is reviewed by any senior member of the team who is, let's say, a qualified chartered accountant, and then it is approved by, let's say, the partner, the engagement partner, right? Then, for example, with respect to sales, so it will be mentioned there that vouch few sales invoices from the copies available in the record of the concern. How much checking has been done, the person is going to mention. What is the basis of sample, if sample is taken, and who has done it, the initials will be mentioned here, right? Same way, trace these invoices into the accounts books of concern. Then verify invoices by e-way bills generated on the e-way bill portal. Trace few invoices from stock records and from the accounts of the buyers, right? So these are the various steps. So it is what? A series of steps, right? That the person has to perform in order to obtain the audit evidence. Why? In order to draw the conclusion, and ultimately what is the objective? To give the opinion, right? What is the extent of checking? 100% checking was done, or let's say it was done on sample basis. Then what is the basis of sample? Was it about with respect to the amount, like maybe transaction exceeding 50,000 rupees have been checked? So everything will be mentioned here. So just have a look at this and try to imagine that what benefits will flow from an audit program, or what disadvantages will flow from audit program. Also, we'll be studying a topic as to what all points the auditor will keep in mind when he or she is constructing an audit program. So I hope this thing is clear, that this audit program will be prepared by the auditor, not the management or any personnel of the client organization. If you remember, we have done it in the last session also, that overall establishing the overall audit strategy and developing an audit plan is the responsibility of the management. Yes, he can discuss the elements of planning with the management, but that should not compromise with the effectiveness of the audit. The topic which I have just said is really very, very important. You can always get a practical situation out of this topic, right? Right. So now let us just have a look at the definition of the term audit program. So it is basically a series of verification procedures. So just have a look at this. So these are what? A series, right, of verification procedures, that okay, the few sales invoices can be checked, then e-way bills can be checked, stock records can be checked, accounts of buyers, the debtors ledgers can be checked. So series of verification process to be applied to the financial statement and the accounts of the given entity. What is the purpose? I told you. Purpose will be the same. Sufficient, appropriate audit evidence. Why? Because auditor has to give an opinion. So as for the purpose of obtaining sufficient evidence to enable the auditor to express an informed opinion on financial statement. Informed opinion, it means that he has gone through the documents. He is aware about what sales transaction, like whether sales transaction reflected true and fair view. If he himself is informed, then only he is in a position to give the opinion in the correct manner. I hope it is clear. So in other words, an audit program is a detailed plan of applying the audit procedures in the given circumstances, with instructions for the appropriate techniques to be adopted for accomplishing the audit objective. So ultimately, of any audit procedure, of any audit program, the aim is going to be the same, that is to obtain the evidence so as to give an so as to enable the auditor to give an informed opinion, right? So I hope it is clear. So it is basically giving what? A set of instructions to the person who is conducting the examination, right? And students, see, it is not possible, like I started this topic by asking you that what all documents with respect to sales transactions you are going to check. So more specifically with respect to bigger audits, right? Constructing an audit program is a must, because you cannot keep all the documents in mind that, okay, with respect to sales, I'm going to check this. Okay, with respect to let's say fixed assets, I'm going to check this. So if everything is in writing in front of you, it becomes easy to perform the audit procedure, and chances that any important area is overlooked is also reduced, right? Now, if I ask you a question, so I hope what is audit program is clear, and how to learn the definition. See, I told you, just keep in mind this. So this is what a series of verification procedures, right? Where the same is to be applied. These are what sales is what item of financial statement and accounts of the accounts of a given entity, right? And what is the purpose? To obtain sufficient evidence. Why? To enable the auditor to express an informed opinion on the financial statement. I hope it is clear. So Swati, Bhumika, please reply whether these topics are clear or not. The definition of audit program and the concept of audit program. Now, if I ask you a question, that is it possible to evolve to construct a single audit program and apply it to all the clients? Let's take an example. For example, so XYZ and Associates is a firm of chartered accountants, right? And it has got a number of clients. Let's say it has a manufacturing concern. It manufacturing concern as a client. So these are what clients. It has a client which is NGO. It has a client, let us assume that these three clients are providing services. So if one audit program is prepared with respect to manufacturing concern, whereby it will be mentioned that with respect to production, check all these documents. With respect to, let's say, purchases, check all these transactions. Can these be applied with respect to financial statements of NGO, checking the financial statements of NGO and the service organization? So quickly send in your reply. So Bhumika is saying, no, ma'am, it is not possible. Why? Because the nature, size, and composition of the business of the manufacturing concern vis-a-vis the NGO and the service provider, let's say it is providing some network services, right? So the services are going to be different. The nature of the service or the product the relevant client is manufacturing or providing is different. The size of the company, right, it is going to be different. Also, if you remember, we have done the concept of internal control, whereby we understand that auditor does check the internal control, though not for the purpose of expressing an opinion on internal control, but in order to see as to what extent of checking he needs to do, right? So in such a situation, it might be possible that manufacturing concern is having a good internal control, and the service industry, the company, the client who are in the service industry, they are not having good internal control. So accordingly, the audit program will change. So evolving one audit program for all the client is not possible. So let us just have a look to this topic from a module. So evolving, I'm on page number 2.19. Paragraph 8.1. So let me just have a look at the replies that I'm getting. So Anmol is saying, no ma'am, due to nature and statutory compliance, absolutely correct. Bhumika is saying, because of nature and size of different entities different. Swati is saying no. Mohammed is saying it differs business to business. Bhumika is also saying no, which is absolutely correct, right? So businesses vary in nature, size, and composition, right? Work which is suitable to one business may not be suitable to others. Efficiency and operation of internal control and the exact nature of service to be rendered by the auditor are the other factors that may vary from assignment to assignment. On account of such variation, evolving one program applicable to all businesses under all circumstances is not practicable. However, it becomes a necessity to specify in detail in audit program the nature of work to be done, so that no time will be wasted on matters not pertinent. Pertinent is what? Relevant to the engagement, and any special matter or any situation can be taken care of. Okay? Is it clear? Right? So you have seen that what are the reasons. So if you get a 3-mark question, and I always talk about the keywords. So the first point will be nature, size, composition. The work suitable for one business may not be suitable for the other. The efficiency and operation of internal control, and last, the exact nature of service to be rendered by the auditor, right? So there can be differences in that, right? Is it clear? Quickly send in your replies. Now the next point. So let me just explain this with the help of another example. So let's say this is the audit program with respect to purchases, right? Quickly send in your replies. Should we proceed? So let's say this audit program is given to the engagement team, and suppose it is having 4 documents. And let's say this third document is not applicable to the company. But the audit team, the person who is conducting the audit, he is after the management that no, since it is mentioned in the audit program, I definitely need this document. Is this approach correct? The answer is no. Also, on the other hand, let's say there are 4 documents that are mentioned, or 4 audit procedures that are mentioned in the audit program with respect to purchases. But considering the client, there are 2 more documents that the team can check, which are though not mentioned in the audit program. Should the person who is examining the purchase transaction restrict herself or himself to the audit program, and should she or he, whether they should concentrate on getting the 5th and 6th document, or they should not? Quickly tell me, since it is not mentioned in the audit program. So they should get the documents 5th and 6th, or they should not get. So I will receive your answer as get or should not get. Quickly send in your replies. Anmol, Bhumika, Swati, Mohammed Shoaib. Send in your replies. So they will obviously get. So I can say that the person who is following the audit program and who is checking the transaction, let's say purchases transaction, he or she should have an open mind. So if any transaction comes, or any documents come, which is in his judgment, or according to him, that document should be collected, she or he should do that. And if anything is mentioned for the program,
Ma'am, I think there is some issue in your mic.
वैसे तो it's fine, मतलब अब क्लियर है क्या?
Yeah.
ठीक है. So in case any document is there which is though not mentioned in the audit program, but which according to the person who is conducting the examination, that document is important, so obviously that person is going to ask the management that I need that document also, and vice versa. That if something is mentioned that is not relevant to the company, so you will not ask the company or the management that no, I need this document, right? So Bhumika, Swati, they are saying yes, ma'am. Mohammed Shoaib is also saying yes, ma'am, they should get, and right. So let us just have a look at this topic from a module. To start with, an auditor, having regard to the nature, size, composition, business, dependability of internal control, and given the scope of work, should frame an audit program which should aim at providing minimum essential work, which may be termed as standard program. So let's say the engagement partner has made an audit audit program. So first of all, it should have what? The minimum work that is to be done. That is a standard program should be there. As experience is gained by actually carrying out the work, the program may be altered to take care of situations which were left out originally, but are found relevant for the particular concern. So though not mentioned in the audit program, the standard program that has been prepared, though it is not mentioned, but as and when experience is gained, when the audit is carried out, then if something is found relevant with respect to particular concern, that should be considered. Similarly, if any work originally provided for proves beyond doubt to be unnecessary or irrelevant, it may be dropped. The assistant engaged in the job should be encouraged to keep an open mind beyond the program given to him. He should be instructed to note and report significant matters coming to his notice to his
Ma'am,
seniors or partners.
again issue. Your voice is breaking, I think.
पर नेटवर्क तो मेरा पूरा आ रहा है. शुड आई स्टॉप शेयरिंग? उससे हो रहा है क्या कुछ?
No, no, ma'am.
तो नेटवर्क तो कंप्लीट है.
Actually,
चलो अब देखते हैं.
yeah, ma'am.
आप कुछ कह रहे थे?
No, ma'am.
Students are also writing. Voice is buffering. So the assistant, that is the person who is conducting the examination of that particular thing. So they should be encouraged to keep an open mind, right? And if any matter comes to their notice, which is of significance, which is any significant matter, then they should be encouraged to discuss the same with the seniors or the partners so that the proper action or proper examination can be done with respect to that matter. Right? Is it clear? So far we have seen as to what is audit program. We saw the definition, an example. Then we saw that involving one audit program is not practicable for all businesses. And then this topic that the assistant should be encouraged to keep an open mind, right? Now, another topic, which is what? Periodic review. Quickly tell me, is there a requirement to review or update the audit program? For example, let's say this XYZ and Associates, it is conducting the audit of ABC Limited for the last, let's say, 3 years. And 2 years back, it has made one audit program and the same is being followed by the team. Now, in your opinion, should the same be reviewed? So Anmol is saying yes, Swati is also saying yes. Why? Because if anything which is not relevant for the audit now, that should be deleted. For example, when there was a transition from VAT to GST, so the audit program must have been changed, right? Or another example, suppose there has been a change in the GST rate with respect to sale of any transaction. Now, in that case also, if the audit team, it continues to check the transaction as per the previous audit program, whereby the old GST rate is mentioned. So that is not going to give the correct end result now. So there is a need to review the audit program. Mohammed Shoaib is also saying yes, ma'am. There is a need to review. Right. Okay. So there should be a periodic review of the audit program to assess whether the same continues to be adequate for obtaining requisite knowledge and evidence about the transaction. Unless this is done, any change of business policy of the client may not be adequately known, and consequently, audit work may be carried on the basis of obsolete, which is not relevant, right? For this negligence, the whole audit may be held as negligently conducted and the audit may have to face legal consequences. Is it clear? So, Bhumika, see, network is absolutely full from my side. So, what is to be done? Tell me. Should I rejoin the session?
Ma'am, take a break and restart your system, I think.
अच्छा ठीक है. So students will take a quick break of 5 minutes. So we were discussing the third topic relating to audit program, which was what? Review of audit program. So just a minute. So student, I hope this topic is also clear that review is to be done. So that is the audit program can be updated according to the latest developments. Right? So I am on page number 2.20. So the utility of audit program can be retained and enhanced only by keeping the program as also the client's operation and internal control under periodic review. See, why internal control? So if let's say earlier the internal control was operating effectively and accordingly the auditor has determined the extent of checking, right? But now let's say if the internal controls are not working effectively, so there is going to be change in the extent of checking, and accordingly the audit program is going to change, right? So that inadequacies or redundancies of the program may be removed, right? So now the next topic that we are going to cover is what? Constructing an audit program. I hope now the voice is clear. Constructing an audit program. So I told you that just keep in mind what this example of audit program, and now try to just take certain points for construction of audit program. So when the audit partner or let's say any senior member in the audit team, they are making the audit program. So what all points should they keep in mind, right? So this is our next topic, construction of an audit program. See, based on the audit program, the audit procedures will be performed. Based on the audit procedures, the audit evidence will be obtained. And based on that audit evidence, the conclusions and further the opinion will be formed. So construction of audit program is really very, very important for an audit to give an effective and efficient output, right? So what are the various points that the team should keep in mind, or the person who is constructing the audit program? Constructing is what? Making the audit program should keep in mind. So first of all, stay within the scope and limitation of the assignment. Scope, you all know, you all have done in chapter number 1, that what all are included in the scope of an audit engagement and what all are not included in the scope of the audit engagement. So when an engagement partner is preparing an audit program with respect to, let's say, any item of the financial statement, let's say with respect to purchases, so what is the scope? What is the limitation of the assignment? For example, let's say the inventory count is to be done. The inventory is to be checked. Right? Now, if the auditor wants his team to attend the physical inventory count, see whose primary responsibility is conducting the physical inventory count, it is that of the management. So when the physical inventory count is to be attended, so it will happen on the date when management is actually performing that physical inventory count now. So this is a limitation. You cannot do it at any point of time during the year. It has to be done. Let's say the management is conducting the physical inventory count on 31st March itself. So this is a kind of limitation which should be kept in mind, that this work can be done at this particular time only. So I'm just giving you an example. Stay within the scope. So if the example can be, so if let's say purchases are to be checked. So with respect to purchases, let's say the auditor has mentioned that purchase invoices is to be checked, the agreements is to be checked. Now, whether to check the tenders, the quotations, or whether to check the working of the production department also. So auditor will have to check that all the audit procedure, the documents that they are going to check, the audit procedures that they are going to perform, they should be within the scope and limitation of the assignment. I hope it is clear. Then prepare a written audit program. I told you that keeping everything in mind is not practically possible. So it should be a written audit program, right? Thereby all the procedures that are to be performed, they are mentioned clearly. Determine the evidence reasonably available and identify the best evidence. See, students, with respect to a particular transaction, a number of audit procedures can be performed, a number of audit evidence can be obtained. But the auditor, after applying his professional judgment, he will see as to which is the best evidence. And in order to obtain that best evidence available, what is the audit procedure that should be performed, right? So let's say with respect to sales, invoices can also be checked, sales invoice, the sales agreement, the ledgers, the balance confirmation, SA505, you all must have done. So all these documents can be checked. So what is the best evidence? The auditor may also decide to obtain 2 or 3 evidence that will support or corroborate each other. So it all depends upon auditor's professional judgment, right? Apply only those steps which is useful in accomplishing the verification purpose. So what is the purpose? So let's say with respect to building, if the title of building is to be checked, title. So the title deed will be checked now. So auditor, with respect to checking the title of the building, he will not mention that conduct the physical examination of the building. Why? Because the purpose is what? To check the title, and that will be checked by inspecting the title deed of the building, right? Include the objectives for each area. What is the objective? The example that I just gave you, that if let's say the objective is to check the title, the ownership over the building. So with respect to the documents that are mentioned with respect to the audit procedure, it should be made sure that the objectives for which the relevant audit procedure is to be performed, that should be also mentioned. That is what should be the output, the conclusion, right? Then consider all possibilities of error. So when the auditor or the engagement partner is preparing the audit program, so obviously whatever possibilities of error, that is likely errors can happen, that should also be considered in mind, right? And then coordinate the procedures to be applied to the related term. So whatever are the procedures that are mentioned, right? So that needs to be coordinated. For example, with respect to sales, let's say the debtors balance, the debtors accounts, the ledgers of the debtors are checked. And when the audit program with respect to checking the debtors balance is written, so there should not be duplication of work as such, that the team is being asked to check the debtor balance here also and debtor ledgers here also and at the other point of time also. So that is why coordinate the procedure to be applied to the related terms, right? So I hope it is clear. Swati, I will take up your doubt, but please tell me whether this is clear or not. Let us just have a look at it from your module. So stay within the scope and limitation of the assignment. Prepare a written audit program setting forth the procedure that are needed to implement the audit plan. Determine the evidence reasonably available and identify the best evidence for deriving the necessary satisfaction. Apply only those steps and procedure which are useful in accomplishing verification purpose in the specific situation. Include the audit objectives for each area and sufficient details which serve as a set of instruction for the assistants involved in audit and help in controlling the proper execution of the work. Consider all possibilities of errors and last but not the least, coordinate the procedures to be applied to the related items. So students, I've tried to give you example with respect to each point. So I hope it is clear. Swati and Bhumika are saying, ma'am, yes, it is clear. So Swati has asked me to repeat the topic of what? Why assistant should be asked to keep an open mind. So what is she mentioned? She is saying, ma'am, why assistant to keep open mind? So Swati, can you please elaborate your doubt? See, I got your point. See, Swati is saying that, ma'am, we have studied that the the assistant should be encouraged to keep an open mind. And when we are talking about construction of audit program, it says that stay within the scope and limitation of the assignment. So these are two separate things. So here in this topic, we are asking the assistant to keep an open mind that if something comes to his knowledge, which though is not mentioned in the audit program, but is relevant for the audit, he should consider that. And if something is mentioned in the audit program, which is not relevant, let's say last year it was relevant, now it is not relevant, so he should ignore that. This is clear, right? Now here we are saying that when the audit program is being constructed, so it should not happen that, let's say, with respect to the purchases transaction, there are various steps that are mentioned that these are to be performed, these documents are to be collected. So it should not happen that with respect to purchases, the production department is also checked in detail, though that was not required. Right? So you get, if you're checking the salaries, so the auditor will not go beyond his scope and check how the HR department is functioning. Yes, if it is required for the purpose of the financial statement, then he will do that. But otherwise, he will check only the duty of the auditor is to check the transactions that fall in his domain relating to accounting and auditing. So I hope, Swati, it is clear now. Quickly send in your reply. Quickly send in your replies. Swati, and Anmol has asked me to repeat point number 3rd, 5th, and 7th with respect to construction of audit program. Swati, meanwhile, you reply. So the 3rd point says that determine the evidence reasonably available and identify the best evidence for deriving the necessary satisfaction. So students, I gave you example of sales, that with respect to sales, a number of documents can be checked, like the sales invoices, the sales agreement, if some tender were floated, right? Then let's say the GST records, let's say the stock records, and let's say the external confirmation can be obtained, right? So determine the evidence reasonably available. So what all evidence are available, right? And the best evidence, for example, for sales, the best evidence can be what? External confirmation. So auditor, after applying his professional judgment, will determine as to what is the best evidence for the assertion that he needs to check. So accordingly, he'll decide on the best evidence that is to be collected for his necessary satisfaction, right? Then the 5th point, include audit objectives for each area in sufficient details which serve as a set of instruction for assistance involved in audit and help in controlling the proper execution of the work. So I gave example of building. For example, the ownership of building is to be checked. There are a number of buildings that are coming in the balance sheet. So if it has been mentioned that check the title deed, now what is to be checked in that? So if it is mentioned that in order to check the ownership, so the objective is clear that this particular assertion is to be checked. So then it is going to help the assistant in performing that process, in getting the sufficient and appropriate evidence as is required, right? And 7th, coordinate the procedure to be applied to related items. So I gave example of what? Sales, credit sales and debtors. So credit sales and debtors. So mostly the documents here will be same. So it will not happen that, let's say there is a sale of 10 lakhs here to a debtor, that is Ram, and here. So it will not happen that when the auditor is preparing audit program for sales, he is mentioning that obtain external confirmation, and here also he is mentioning obtain external confirmation. Now let's say two teams, two separate person are working for sales. One person is checking the sales transaction, one person is checking, let's say, the debtors. So it should not happen that there is duplication of work. So that is why coordinate the procedures to be applied to related items. So when you are checking the fixed assets, for example, and let's say the depreciation schedule. So depreciation is what? Your P&L item. Your fixed assets is what? Your asset, your balance sheet item. So there should be coordination. Why? Because these are what? Related items. So I hope it is clear. Swati is saying, yes, ma'am, it is clear. Anmol, you also please reply. Uh, so Anmol is saying clear. So Mohammed Shoaib, see, Mohammed is saying, ma'am, if the assistant does not report to the senior, so that is why there are these guidelines now that, and when we say that you should encourage the assistant to keep an open mind, to who will encourage? So whenever audit is there, before going for the audit, the engagement partner, we have done briefing and debriefing is done. If you remember these terms, I explained that in detail in the last session, briefing and debriefing. So the engagement partner, the senior members in the team, they discuss with their team about what is expected out of them when they are working on a particular audit engagement. And at that time, they are encouraged that, okay, if something comes to your, if something comes to your knowledge, you need to tell the senior partner or tell the senior member of the audit team. So that is how the audit team will be encouraged to keep an open mind and to discuss with the engagement partner or the senior partner. And in fact, you will see that here we are going to see that there will be one point that the engagement partner should also be receptive to any suggestion or any information that the audit team is bringing. Let's say, take an example that the engagement partner, he's a very strict person. He's a very, he just gives order. He never listens to his team. So tell me, will in that situation, the audit team bring significant matters to his knowledge? No, right? So there are instructions for the audit partner also, that you also need to be receptive for the engagement team to provide you with the valuable feedback or any such instances. So I hope it is clear. Anmol, Swati are saying it is clear. Mohammed Shaib, you also send in your reply whether it is clear or not. And a very important topic. You can always get a straight question, 3 mark or 4 mark, with respect to construction of the audit program, right? So now quickly tell me one thing, is audit program and audit evidence? Quickly send in your replies. Is audit program and audit evidence? Quickly send in your replies. So I hope you so Liana is saying no, ma'am, but it is a key to audit evidence, and Mohammed is saying yes, ma'am, it is an audit evidence. So see, audit program, it what is audit evidence? First of all, just try to understand this. See, audit evidence is any information which the auditor obtains and based on which the opinion, the conclusions are drawn and the opinion is formed, right? So this is what audit evidence. Now let's say in future what happens is there is some fraud in the company after the audit and everything has been done, right? So can the auditor use the audit program as a defense that, see, I conducted the audit in an effective manner. So I conducted the audit with due diligence and proper care? Quickly tell me yes or no. Quickly send in your replies. Quickly. So Sukaina is saying yes. Swati is also saying yes. So yes, audit program is also one of the audit evidence. So it says that evidence is the very basis for formulation of opinion, and audit program is designed to provide for that by prescribing procedures and techniques. What is best evidence for testing the accuracy of any assertion is a matter of expert knowledge and experience. This we all have done. This is the primary task before the auditor when he draws up the audit program. Transactions are varied in nature and impact. Procedure to be prescribed depends upon prior knowledge of what evidence is reasonably available, right? Now, students, the next topic is very simple, which though is there in chapter number 4, but this topic, it is basically saying as to from what all source can audit evidence be obtained? Can it be documentary examination? The answer is yes. Physical examination of, let's say, the inventory or the assets? Yes. Then statement and explanation of management officials or employees. Like if the auditor is conducting any inquiry, so he may ask the management to provide the answer to that inquiry in writing. If the auditor is asking, let's say, the internal legal counsel to check certain, to give him a detail of all the litigations, so he may ask the legal counsel to provide that in writing. So statements of explanation of management official and employee. So these are what that. See, what is the topic? The auditor picks up evidence from a variety of fields, and it is generally of the following broad types: documentary examination, physical examination, statement explanation of management official employees, statement and explanations of third party, like your external confirmation, SA 505, right? Arithmetical calculations by the auditor. So let's say depreciation schedule is there. So auditor can what? He can perform a procedure of recalculation, whereby he's checking the whether calculations are correct or not. State of internal controls and internal check. We have seen now that auditor does check the internal control, though not for the purpose of reporting on the internal control, but for the purpose of seeing his extent of checking of the transactions, right? The interrelationship of various accounting data, subsidiary and memorandum records, like your cost records, which, right? Then the minutes of the meeting and subsequent action taken by the client or by the others. Subsequent action taken by the client, the example can be what? Let's say the auditor checked the internal control and then he found that there are various deficiencies in the internal control. So whether management has taken any step for that or not. So this is going to act as audit evidence when he is again constructing the audit program, let's say for the next year, because now he's aware that last year I told about a deficiency in the internal control to the management and no corrective action was taken. So I'll not rely on the internal control. So this topic is basically very general, and it says that what are the various fields from where the uh, evidence can be picked up. For example, don't look at the screen and tell me what is the best evidence with respect to checking the cash in hand. So Anmol, you were asking me about this third point. Now you tell me, you were saying that it is clear. So best evidence for cash in hand. Quickly send in your replies. Quickly send in your replies. So cash count. This is the best evidence that can be done with respect to, let's say, investments which are pledged with the bank. So a confirmation or let's say a banker certificate becomes the best evidence. So this way, auditor can decide on the best evidence that is available, and the same can be mentioned in the in the audit program so that the audit team can perform that particular procedure, right? So I hope it is clear. So Swati is saying assessing it directly, which is correct. Bhumika is also saying surprise check, yes, checking of the cash account, which is absolutely correct. Now, the next topic, which is very simple but really very, very important. Quickly tell me what comes to your mind when I ask you that what are the advantages of an audit program? Quickly send in your replies. Advantages and disadvantages. So, what are the advantages of an audit program? So, students, so Sukaina, try to send your replies here only. Zoom, you will not be able to send your replies. Advantages. So Liana is saying, ma'am, it acts as a basis for audit procedure. Anmol is saying it helps in conducting an effective audit. Others also please reply. Sukaina is saying, ma'am, no confusion and accountability can be fixed. Absolutely correct. And students, whatever you are writing now is absolutely correct. Everyone will be confined to the limit. Swati is saying, Bhumika is saying, it assists in assignment of work to appropriate engagement matters. Right. So see, there are various advantages as well as disadvantages. So what are the various advantages? It gives a total and clear set of instructions of the work generally to be done. Is it clear? So a set of instruction is there. Now you saw that it is a series of procedures to be performed. So it gives a clear set of instruction that with respect to sales, this is to be checked. With respect to purchases, this is to be checked. It is essentially, particularly for major audits, to provide a total perspective of the work to be performed. So if the team has the entire audit program in front of their eyes, it gives an idea as to what is the work, total work that is to be performed. Then when the audit program, separate audit program for, let's say, the sales transaction, the purchases, the asset side, the balance sheet, liability side, everything is mentioned. Selection of assistants also become easier when the work is rationally planned, defined, and segregated based on the capability, right? And when there is written or predetermined program, then ignoring or overlooking of certain books or records, a danger of overlooking or ignoring certain books, which is always there, that can be avoided, right? When the signatures are put, if you remember, done by is mentioned in the sample that we have seen, then the person who has performed that examination, he or she accepts the responsibility for the work carried out by them individually. The principal can control the progress of various audits in hand by examination of audit program, right? So it fixes the responsibility of whoever has done. Also for the principal, that is the engagement partner, he can also review as to what is the progress of the audit, because there it will be signed, it will be mentioned now that on what date, who has done this work. So the progress of the work can be seen. It acts as a guide for the succeeding year. In the next year also, you can consider, yes, updation is required, periodic review is required. And if you remember, I discussed this point, a properly drawn up audit program serves as the evidence in the event of any charge of negligence being brought against the auditor. It may be of considerable value in establishing that he exercised reasonable skill and care that was expected of a professional auditor, right? But as every coin has two sides, there are certain disadvantages also. Quickly send in your replies. What can be disadvantages of the audit program? Quickly send in your replies. I'll wait for 30 seconds, then we'll proceed. Quickly send in your replies. So the disadvantages. So see, when you have a set of instruction that okay with respect to sales, you have to check this. Chances are there that the person who is checking the transaction as per the audit program, he'll not apply his mind, and just mechanically he's just asking the management, okay management, this is mentioned, have you provided me with this? Okay, give me sales invoices, give me this, give me that. But he may not apply his mind, so it means that it becomes what? Mechanical, and it may be carried out without any understanding of the object of such parts in the whole audit scheme. That articled assistant or any member of the audit team, he may not be having any knowledge about that thing, but based on the audit program, he is just asking the management and he's just sticking there that I have collected that document, right? And it often tends to become rigid and inflexible. It might happen that when certain set of instructions, that certain procedure are written, then it tends to become rigid and inflexible, because there are certain particular audit procedures that are to be performed mentioned therein, or audit evidence that is to be obtained. So it tends to become what? Rigid and inflexible. For example, see, it says that the program often tends to become rigid, inflexible following set of grooves. The business may change in its operation of conduct, but the old program may still be carried on. Changes in staff, internal control may render precaution necessary at points different from those originally decided upon, right? So let's say the same is not reviewed. It is the old audit program has been continued. So in this case, whereby there has been a change, let's say in internal control, so that program is now rigid and inflexible because there is no updation with respect to the changes in internal control. Inefficient assistant may take shelter behind the program. So inefficient assistant, they are not aware about what is happening. They are just following the instructions that are mentioned. So they may take shelter behind the program. And just the opposite of this, the efficient and enterprising assistant, like all of you, they may feel that their initiative has been killed. Why? Because they cannot do what they want. They have to do what the instructions are being mentioned, right? So how to overcome these disadvantages? So it says that these can be eliminated by imaginative supervision, like how to supervise the work carried out by the assistant. The auditor must be of receptive attitude as regards the assistant. I discussed this topic earlier also. Now, receptive attitude is accepting, willing to listen to what the subordinates are saying. The assistant should be encouraged to observe matter objectively and bring significant matters to the notice of the supervisor or the principal. So simple, I've given you this question, that what are the disadvantages and how the same can be overcome. So this is also important topic. So many of you are, Sukaina is saying that ma'am, rigidness is one of the disadvantage, which is correct. Anmol is saying no creativity, rigid, absolutely correct. Fast changes are not acceptable by all personnel, Swati Singh, which is absolutely correct. But as I always say, that try to learn the keywords, right? So whatever you all are writing is more or less the same. But if you just highlight the keywords here, try to highlight those and learn those, right? So this we have seen. Let us have a look at this test your understanding fifth question, and then we'll discuss the case study. So Rohit, undergoing practical training, is part of engagement team conducting audit of the company engaged in manufacturing of paints. He has been provided with audit program pertaining to sales. It lists out various items to be checked and verified by him, including invoices, rate list, posting in debtors accounts, correlation of invoices with e-way bills on sample basis. So basically, what all audit procedures or audit evidence with respect to sales is to be done, it is mentioned in the audit program. During verification, he notices that many e-way bills have been cancelled by the company within 24 hours of their generation in the month of March. There is no specific instruction in the audit program in this regard. He keeps mum, that is silent, that is he doesn't discuss the same with the management. Is attitude of Rohit proper? Quickly send in your replies. Quickly send in your replies. See, students, many of you always ask me this query that, ma'am, how to answer to the practical question. See, if your concepts are clear now, then your answers to practical situations will always be correct. That concept based practical question only you are going to get in questions. So try to get a clarity of the concept. So Swati is saying not proper, and Anmol is also saying not proper, and Mol has also mentioned no, because he should be encouraged to keep an open mind. So the attitude of Rohit is not proper. So the answer is on page number 2.33. The assistants should observe matters objectively and bring significant matters to the notice of supervisor or principal. Reasons for cancellation of e-way bills in the month of March need to be looked into. Matters should be informed to the engagement partners. So tell me, this practical situation which we have just discussed, is it something which is not covered? Is it based on any concept which is not covered in your module? Quickly tell me. So the answer is no. So have a clarity of the concept. I'm sure you will be able to answer the questions correctly. So now I'm on page number 2.26 and we'll be discussing this case study. Quickly, I've quickly read it from your module if you have, or I have also shared it. So Swati is saying, no, ma'am, we have discussed this topic. Yes. So any practical situation is going to come out of the concepts that are here, or any concept which you must have, related to the concepts that you must have studied. So if your concepts are clear, then your practical questions will always be correctly answered. So Kaur and Associates is a sole proprietor firm of Simran Kaur, is offered appointment as auditor of the company engaged in manufacturing automobile components for the first time. Okay. She is fact checking about integrity of promoters of company and key managerial persons. We have done this somewhere. Okay. So we will see whether a question is asked with respect to this. Matters such as competence of staff to perform the engagement are also considered by her. The appointment is subsequently accepted by her. She is also taking the account number and location of branches of the company, requirements of Schedule 3 of Companies Act 2013, and expected time by which audit has to be completed, keeping in view the statutory requirements. Initially, she has thought it proper to inquire key employees of the company in procurement and marketing departments and planned for the same. She has also planned to visit 3 plants of the company. The purpose of planned inquiry visit is to identify and assess the risk of material misstatement. A detailed set of instruction has been prepared by her office and it has been handed over to the assistant in engagement team. These set of instructions include detail of extent of checking and nature of audit procedure to be performed regarding purchases, sales, items of income, and items of expenditure. During the course of execution of above set of instructions, so set of instructions is what? Audit program. It has been brought to her notice that the company is also producing substantial quantities of scrap generated during the manufacturing process. However, no instruction have been given to the engagement team in this regard. I hope you are able to understand this case study. Now let us have a look at the first question. So, see students, before discussing these 5 questions, again, I'd like to repeat here that whenever you get any MCQ or a practical situation based question or case scenario or case study, just read the case scenario or the question and then read these questions properly, whether correct or incorrect, like whether which of the following is correct, which of the following is incorrect. Because it often happens the student read incomplete question. And after reading the first option only, they'll say, okay, this is the answer, and they'll take it and then give the wrong answer. Okay? So read the question, the situation given or the case scenario and the options with your eyes, mind open. ठीक है? So auditor is fact checking about promoters, key managerial persons. She is also considering competence of staff to perform engagement. What is she trying to do? She is establishing audit strategy. She is conducting preliminary engagement activities. She is designing audit plan. She is checking her compliance with ethical requirements. Quickly send in your replies. Anmol, Bhumika, you are absolutely correct. So see, when she's checking about, if you remember, I told you checking something about the client, checking something about the audit form. So where have we studied this topic? Preliminary engagement activities, which is nothing but element of planning only. है ना? Element of planning may we have done preliminary engagement activity whereby we have done 3 points. So this is the part of the first point, right? So the answer is B. I hope it is clear. I'm on now second question. Yes, Sukaina, you are absolutely correct. So consideration of numbers and location of branches, requirements of financial reporting framework, expected time of completion are relevant factors primarily of for which of the following: developing audit plan, establishing overall audit strategy, designing audit program, designing the risk assessment procedure. Quickly send in your replies. So Swati, check your answer. Consideration of number and location of branches, requirements of financial reporting framework, expected time of completion are relevant factors primarily for which of the following: developing audit plan, establishing overall audit strategy, designing audit program, designing risk assessment procedures. Swati, here not only number of locations has been asked, but here other things are also mentioned in the question. Requirement of financial reporting framework, expected time of completion are relevant factors. See, factors for what? So the answer is B, establishing the overall audit strategy where we have studied various factors. Is it okay? Bhumika, Sukaina, you are correct and Mol is also correct. Okay. We are on third question. See, I'll just show you where we have studied it. Establishing the overall audit strategy. So see here. There are 5 points with respect to establishing. So these are the factors to be taken into account. So what all is she considering? The number and location of branches, requirements of applicable financial reporting framework, then expected time of completion. So this is what reporting objective. Hana? Is it clear now? Yes, Swati is saying, ma'am, it is clear now. Please read the question carefully, but students, because it often happens that you know the answer, but since you haven't devoted proper time and attention to reading of the question, the answer that you mention is wrong. Third, taking into account description of planned inquiry and visit, which of the following statement is true? Planned inquiry visit fall in the area of audit strategy. Planned inquiry visit are planned risk assessment procedure and fall in the field of audit plan. The said description is not related to audit plan. Planned inquiry and visit fall in the scope of audit program. Now, if you just see, now here it is specifically talking about planned inquiry and visit. And if you just read this line, it says that she has also planned to visit 3 plants of the company. The purpose, it is mentioned here specifically that the purpose of planned inquiry and visit is to identify and assess the risk of material misstatement, right? So now give answer to this third question, because specifically it is mentioned in your case scenario that it is for the purpose of risk assessment. So the answer is what? It is planned risk assessment procedure and fall in the field of audit plan. Swati, Sukarna, you are absolutely correct. Anmol, also you are correct. Now the fourth question. What is detailed set of instructions given to assistant in engagement team known as, are these audit guidelines, audit plan, audit program, or audit procedures? Very simple question. Quickly send in your replies. So Anmol has mentioned So we are on question number 4. So Kaina, are you giving me answer of question number 3rd or 4th? Please mention the question also. So the answer is what? Audit program. Because set of instructions. Okay. Swati 4C, absolutely correct. Anmol, you are also correct. Now the last question with respect to this. The issue of generation of scrap has been overlooked in the detailed set of instruction given to engagement team. What should be proper course of action by Simran Kaur? Sukanya, you are correct. So give me answer for 5th also. The issue of generation of scrap has been overlooked in detailed set of instruction given to the engagement team. What should be the proper course of action by Simran Kaur? A. She should ignore this information as audit has already begun. B. She should modify earlier set of instructions. C. She should leave the matter to wisdom of engagement team. And D. She should put the ball in the court of management as she was not provided with complete information earlier. Quickly send in your replies with respect to 5th question also. So the answer is she should modify the earlier set of instructions because we all know that the audit program can be revised. See, audit program is what it is, a part of audit plan only, na? So, and we have studied that overall audit strategy, audit plan, and also audit program can be revised. Okay? Is it clear? Is it clear? Let us just quickly have a look at. I have uploaded questions and notes. So let us just quickly have a look at the questions that I have uploaded. So just read this 3rd question. Quickly send in your replies. Question number 3, Mrs. Ravish and Associates. So, Mrs. Ravish and Associates are appointed as statutory auditors of ABC Limited for the financial year 23-24. The engagement team consists of 3 article assistants and C. Ravish as the engagement partner. Before starting the audit work, C. Ravish briefed the team about the responsibility of the auditor with respect to the overall audit strategy and audit plan. One of the article assistants told C. Ravish that according to him, the audit team should ask the management of ABC Limited to prepare the audit plan as the management is aware about the various items of financial statement which are to be examined by the audit team. What should, see, just change this name. CA Ravish explained to the audit team. If you remember, I am telling you again and again, this is a very important topic. So can this work be given to the management of the company? No. Why? Because we have studied that establishing the overall audit strategy and developing an audit plan is the responsibility of the auditor. Okay? Is it clear? So Mohammed Shoaib is saying preparation of audit program is responsibility of the auditor. Anmol is saying, ma'am, CA should explain that planning an audit is the responsibility of auditor and not of management. Swati is saying, ma'am, he is not right because audit strategy is the responsibility of the auditor. Absolutely correct. I hope now you are able to get confidence that you will be in a position to write correct answers to the practical situations provided your conceptual knowledge is clear. Tell me answer to question number 7. Mrs. Raj Taj and Associates is the statutory auditor of ABC Limited for the financial year 23-24. CA Raj is the engagement partner for this engagement. He is in the process of establishing the overall audit strategy for the engagement. What assistance will he get by establishing the overall audit strategy? Quickly send in your replies. So students, I have shared this PPT also, though in the PDF format. So here now just delete this assistant for the auditor. So basically this is the topic of factors, right? Assistant to the auditors, you can do this. See students, these notes and these are just for your reference purpose. The detailed understanding, detailed learning, you will have to do from the module itself. So this assistant to the for the auditor, this is some other topic which Sukaina, you are absolutely correct. She has answered it correctly. Others also please reply. Anmol, Swati, Mohammed Shoaib, please, Bhumika, please reply. Mohammed Shoaib is also correct. Yes, Anmol, you are also correct. But please, students, when I discussed with you this topic, let me just take you to the answer. Then in how to learn, may I ask you that you can learn it, you can remember these by just remembering that, okay, it basically says that what resources are required, how much. See, but that you are not going to write in the exam. That is only for your purpose of remembering, right, Anmol? Whatever techniques we discuss here, na, that is only for the purpose of remembering. I always tell you that whatever is mentioned in your module, that you have to pick up the keywords from, and that is going to get you good marks. So Anmol, is it clear? Though your answer is correct, but language does matter. Nahi, Swati, just read that question again. Let me just take you that question. First of all, I hope whoever has downloaded this PDF of the notes, just remove these words assistant of the audit, assistant to the auditor. Okay. Then I'm taking you to the question. So the question is what assistance will he get by establishing an overall audit strategy? Assistance is what help will he get? Okay. Now let us have a look at this topic. So establishing an overall audit strategy, assistant to the auditor. So the process of establishing the overall audit strategy assists the auditor to determine, subject to completion of the auditor's risk assessment procedure, such matters as the resources to deploy for specific audit area. So see how to write the answer now. So I'm telling you again now, please don't write what resources and all. That is only for the purpose of remembering what is to be mentioned, right? So the resources to be deployed for specific audit areas. Experienced team members for high risk areas or complex matters, right? So these are the keywords. Amount of resources. Example of inventory count. Audit budget in hours. Clear? When these resources are to be used. See, you can always write when these resources are to be used, interim or key cutoff dates. So these are what keywords. A key cutoff ke saath dates to you will mention na. So you can always make a summary here or you can just highlight it here. Okay? And how these resources are, if you remember, I mentioned DSR. You will not write DSR na, you will write directed, supervised and reviewed. And here two terms, briefing and debriefing, we have discussed. So this is the way you are going to understand also. And you are going to learn the keywords also in order to get good marks. Bhumika, is it correct? Is it clear? Swati, Bhumika and Mol, Mohammed Shoaib. So now go through this MCQ. These questions are already uploaded. The first one. And now why I have asked you these kind of MCQs, though these are not practical based, because I want you to practice as to how to read correctly the question as well as the options. Okay? So go through this first question and give me the answer. See, Anmol is asking whether we have to write examples also. See, it all depends upon the marks that have been allotted for that particular question. If a specific section is been asked, a specific point is been asked, then you will give that in detail. If let's say out of 4, only 1 point is asked, and in your module, example is also given with that point, you will mention that. But let's say if for 4 mark you are being asked to enumerate the 4 points, so you'll write the 4 points only then. And also it depends upon the time that you are left with. Quickly send in a reply. So which of the following is correct? Is correct. So this is asking for correct option. Okay? The auditor shall establish an audit plan that sets the scope, timing, direction of audit and that guides the development of overall audit strategy. See, audit plan doesn't set the scope, timing, direction. It is the overall audit strategy. So this is not correct. The auditor shall establish an overall audit strategy that sets the scope, timing, direction of audit, and there is no need to guide the development of audit plan, which is also not correct because audit plan is also to be developed. Let's read the D option now. The auditor shall establish an audit plan that sets the scope, timing, direction, and there is no need to guide the development of overall audit strategy, which is also not correct. The auditor shall establish an overall audit strategy that sets the scope, timing, direction of audit and that guides the development of the audit plan, which is the correct option. Sukaina, Bhumika, Mohammed Shoaib, Anmol, absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. Okay. Now read this second question, and as I am telling you again and again, read it correctly. Second question. So which of the following statement is not correct with respect to the auditor's responsibility regarding overall audit strategy and audit plan? Is not correct, right? The auditor may decide to discuss elements of planning with the entity's management to facilitate the conduct and management of audit engagement. This is appearing to be correct. But what has been asked for? C. Then what happens? If you read this question in a hurry, you will read that which of the following statement is correct. And you will see that option A is correct and you will mark it as A. And the end result is a wrong answer, right? So now read this question B. The auditor may request the management of the client organization to prepare the overall audit strategy and audit plan. This is not correct. Okay? But let's read the other options also. The overall audit strategy and audit plan remains the auditor's responsibility, which is correct. The involvement of an engagement partner and other key members in the engagement team in planning enhances the effectiveness and efficiency of planning process, which is also correct. So the answer is this. Now I hope after doing this question, you are able to understand why I always say that read the question properly. Right. So the answer is B. Swati, Sukaina, Mohammed Shoaib, Bhumika, Anmol all have answered it correctly. The third question, and after this third question, we will take a break. Which of the following statement regarding audit program is again what? Not correct. So there should be a periodic review of audit program to assess whether the same continues to be adequate for obtaining requisite knowledge and evidence. This is correct, right? The assistant engaged in the job should be encouraged to keep an open mind beyond the program. This is also correct. Let us read the D option. Audit program serves as a guide for all audits to be carried out in the succeeded year. This is also correct. A detailed audit program once prepared for the business can be used for all other businesses. This is not correct. So the answer is what? C. So the answer to third is C. So Anmol, the best, see, read the options carefully. Then only you will be able to get the correct answer. So he's saying, ma'am, what should be the approach where two options seems to be right? Read the options again. Then you will be able to get the correct answer. So Mohammed Shaib is saying C, Swati, Anmol, Bhumika, Sukaina, absolutely correct. So I hope you are able to understand what we have done so far in this chapter. Here we will take a break of 10 minutes. After the break, I'll be discussing with you past year question. We will be uh, going through this chapter. A quick revision we'll do in 10 minutes, and then if the time will permit, I'll start with chapter number 3 also. So a quick break of 10 minutes here. IT, shall I start? So welcome back after the break, students. I hope you all are back. So first of all, let us just complete that question. This is the past year question. CAN engagement partner of LPS Limited is planning for audit of a large company. As part of preliminary engagement activities being performed in this regard, he wants to ensure that compliance with independence requirements is adhered. How shall he form a conclusion that the audit firm complies with independence required? Do not look at the answer, just look at this question. So read this question. Swati, Sukaina, Bhumika, Anmol, Mohammed Shoaib, quickly send in your replies. What answers will come here? So it is a practical based question, but based on what a conceptual, the conceptual knowledge out of this topic only, this chapter only. Quickly send in your replies as to on which page of your module is the answer. Quickly send in your replies. So CAN engagement partner is planning for audit of a large company as part of preliminary engagement activities. So this is talking about preliminary engagement activities being performed in this regard. He wants to ensure that compliance with independence requirements is adhered. How shall he form a conclusion that audit firm complies with independence requirements? Audit firm complies with independence requirement. Engagement partner. If you remember, I specifically highlighted it that the engagement partner has the duty to perform these three things in order to ensure that the ethical requirements, including independence, is met. So, Sukaina, so correct. Bhumika, tell me the page number. See, preliminary activities, you have studied 3 types of preliminary activities now. So, see, now comes the question as to how to write the answer. So, you will not write all 3 activities. Let's say it's a 3-mark question or maybe a 4-mark question. So, you will not write all the 3 activities. Particularly, whatever has been asked for, it will be written here. So, send in your replies. So Sukaina, I will take up your doubt. So it is on page number 2.8 of your module. So it is specifically talking about the responsibility of the engagement partner to form a conclusion on compliance with independence required that apply to the audit engagement. In doing so, the engagement partner shall obtain relevant information from the firm to identify and evaluate circumstances and relationship that create threats to independence. Evaluate information of identified breaches. Identified breaches is what? Identified violations. If any of the firm's independence policies and procedures to determine whether they can create a threat to independence for the audit engagement. I gave you examples. For example, XYZ and Associates are the partners in the firm and CAY becomes one of the board of directors. So now violation has happened and this is identified. Sukaina, is it clear? And then to take appropriate action to eliminate such threats or reduce them to an acceptable low level by applying the safeguards, that is, if considered appropriate, to withdraw from the engagement, and withdrawal is permitted by law regulation. The engagement partner shall promptly report to the firm any inability to resolve the matter for appropriate action. Sukaina, is your doubt clear? Is it clear? So specifically, you will be writing this. See, read the question again. How shall he is whom? The engagement partner. Form a conclusion that the firm complies with independence requirement. And see, The engagement partner shall form a conclusion on compliance with independence requirements that apply to the audit engagement. In doing so, he shall. See, such a direct question, though practical based. So, Suganya is saying it is clear. So, what we'll do is we'll just quickly have a quick glance at whatever we have done in this chapter, and then I'll start with chapter number 3. So audit strategy, audit planning, and audit program. And students, this chapter is having a weightage of, just a minute. Yeah, this chapter is having a weightage of 8 to 12%. Please take all the chapters very seriously. Don't leave any chapter. Okay? So is the case with this chapter also. So we started our discussion by discussing about auditor's responsibility to plan an audit of financial statement, which is given in SA 300, planning and audit of financial statement. So what are the various benefits? So first of all, appropriate action, attention to the important areas, to identify and resolve the potential problems, help in effective and conducting an efficient and effective audit, selection of team members according to competence and capabilities as per the high risk areas. If you remember, these are just the keywords, what I am saying. Direction and supervision of team and review of the work, and coordination with auditors and the experts. Okay. So nature of audit planning, it is not a discrete phase of audit, but it is a continuous and iterative that is happening again and again. So before even doing the risk assessment procedures, what are various matters? You can always get a direct 4-mark question out of this also. So this is also important. So the auditor will consider as to the analytical procedure to be applied as risk assessment procedures, and how to learn. I told you these 2 points are relating to what risk assessment procedures are to be performed. Then a general understanding of legal and regulatory environment, and determination of materiality and whether the involvement of experts is also required. And these points are only discussed here. Okay. Now, involvement of key engagement team members. Yes, engagement partner, other key members will be involved, and in discussion with the team, they will share their experience and insight. See, okay, which will enhance the effectiveness and efficiency of the planning process. Discussion of elements of planning with the entities management. Very important question from the point of view of your practical situation also. I told you now that you may get a question out of this. So when first of all, the auditor can discuss the elements of planning with the entities management to facilitate the conduct and management of audit engagement. But this case is required in order not to compromise the effectiveness of audit. I gave example of disclosing the date of surprise cash check. So the process of planning, we have discussed that elements of planning can be preliminary engagement activities and planning activities. Planning activities further divided as 2, which we'll discuss later on. Preliminary engagement activities at the preparatory stage. So there are 3 things. That is, I told you that here some checking about the client and the audit firm. Here some checking about the audit firm, and here the terms of engagement. Okay. So here the auditor will be checking. He'll make sure that I'll just take you through my notes for this topic. Just a minute. So he'll see that appropriate procedures are followed and conclusions drawn are appropriate. He'll obtain necessary information like matters to be considered, integrity of principal owner and key management, competence of engagement team, matters in the current year and previous year audit engagement, and in case of initial audit engagement, communication with the predecessor auditor. Then he'll continuously evaluate the compliance, and most importantly, independence, ethical compliance and independence. Independence means judgment of a person is not subordinate to the wishes of another. He'll remain alert how through observation and inquiries, and if any matter comes to his attention, he'll take appropriate action, right? Engagement partner, 3 specific duties which we have just discussed, so I'm not discussing it again. The last, auditor will send engagement letter before commencement of the audit to avoid any misunderstanding or confusion. Planning activities, I told you, then it is divided into two parts, that is establishing an overall audit strategy and developing an audit plan. Overall audit strategy sets the scope, timing, direction of audit, which then guides the development of a more detailed audit plan. And it assists the auditor in managing the resources. How? These points also we have discussed, so I'm not repeating it again here because we have discussed it today itself. So what are the various factors to be considered by the auditor for establishing audit strategy? So first of all, again, I told you here how to remember that auditor will try to understand, he'll try to obtain certain knowledge about the client organization. Then any knowledge that he has gained in preliminary activities. Any factors which you remember out of the previous audit. So identify the characteristics of the engagement that defines the scope, applicable FRF, the nature of business in case any segment requires specialized knowledge, industry, the reporting requirements, and expected use of the audit evidence. Ascertain the reporting objective of the engagement to plan timing of audit and nature of communication required. So it includes various points like all these entities, timetable, the meeting with the management to discuss the status of the audit, meeting with the management to discuss the expected timings of report, then the communications within the engagement team, right? Then various factors which in the auditor's professional judgment are significant in directing the engagement team efforts. So volume of transaction, like whether to rely on internal control or not, or any significant change in the accounting standard or any other changes in development, like changes in legal environment. Then the results of preliminary engagement activity and the knowledge gained on other engagement performed by the engagement partner for entities relevant. So if earlier there were deficiencies in the internal control, he communicated that to the management, but whether action has been taken or not. And he'll ask the team to have what? Questioning mind throughout the audit, that is professional skepticism. Last but not the least, ascertain the nature, timing, extent of resources necessary to perform the engagement. Experienced team members will be required in case of higher risk of material misstatement, and engagement budgeting and devotion of more time towards the areas of higher risk of material misstatement. Okay? After doing this, we have gone to the topic of development of audit plan, whereby we have studied about essay 300, planning and audit of financial statements. Just a minute. हाँ, ठीक है. And nature, timing, extent of planned risk assessment procedure. So that audit plan should include a description of nature, timing, extent of planned risk assessment procedure, the nature, timing, extent of planned further audit procedure. So this we are going to cover in detail in the next chapter, though we have discussed it in the earlier session also, and other planned audit procedures. Okay, so I hope clear so far. Relationship, we have seen that relationship between audit strategy and audit plan. So they are what? They are not discrete or sequential processes, but are closely interrelated, since changes in one may result in consequential change in other. So you may get this line or you may get explain. So 3 mark or 4 mark question can come, you need to give this explanation, right? Then overall audit strategy, whose responsibility? Again, I told you important, you may get a practical situation out of this. Okay. Then changes, yes, changes can be done. And information, and when can the changes be done in the audit strategy or plan? This may be the case when information comes to the auditor's attention that differs significantly from the information available when the auditor planned the audit procedures. Okay. Review of the work of the engagement team members is required, but that supervision and review, that will also be planned. And the factors will be size and complexity of entity, area of audit, assessed risk of material misstatement, capability, competence of individual team members performing the audit work. So students, is it clear? Okay. Documentation of everything, overall audit strategy, audit plan, and significant changes made during the audit engagement and audit plan or audit plan, and the reasons. And further, it also says, last time we were not able to do the topics properly due to some disturbance. So that is why I'm repeating this thing. So let me just take you through this topic again. So documentation of the auditor shall document the overall audit strategy, audit plan, significant changes and reason. Plus, this documentation It acts as a record of key decisions, and we have said audit plan, and you all know the audit plan consists of nature, timing, extent of risk assessment procedure. Nature, timing, extent of the further audit procedure. It acts as a record that proper planning was done. It acts as a standard audit program and completion checklist, and in case of any significant changes, why the same were made and the appropriate responses. So if the documentation will be done, it will act as a record of all these things. This topic was left in the last session. Okay. So in your module, I'll just tell you where is this topic given. It is given on page number 2.17. Okay. And audit program, we have done this topic today. It is a series of verification procedures to be applied to financial statement or accounts of a given entity for the purpose of obtaining sufficient evidence to enable the auditor to express an informed opinion on financial statement. I told you that the ultimate objective will remain the same, to give an informed opinion. So evolving one audit program is not practicable for all businesses. There are various reasons. If you remember that business may vary in nature, size, composition. Then the work which is suitable for one business may not be suitable for the other. Operation of internal control may be different, and the work that is expected out of the audit, the service that is to be rendered by the auditor, that may also be different, right? Assistant to keep an open mind. So we saw that minimum essential work that is to be done, the standard program will be there, but assistant will keep an open mind that if something irrelevant is there, that is to be ignored. If something which is not mentioned in the audit report but still is relevant, that is to be considered, and to bring to the notice of the engagement partner any significant matter. Periodic review of audit program is also required so as to avoid any working on the basis of obsolete program. Construction, we have seen that while constructing the audit program, the auditor, he needs to say within the scope and limitation of the assignment, prepare a written audit report, determine the evidence reasonably available and identify the best evidence, apply only those steps which are useful in accomplishing the verification of verification purpose, include the audit objectives for each area, consider all possibilities of error, and last but not the least, coordinate the procedures to be applied to related item. I have discussed all these points with the help of example. I hope it is clear. And then we discuss the topic of advantages and disadvantages. So advantages, we saw that, let me just take you through the module for this, that it provides a total and clear set of instructions. Remember, we are on page number 2.23. Then total perspective, the selection of assistant as per their capabilities. Then ignoring, there is always a possibility of or a danger of ignoring, overlooking certain books and records when the program is a mental plan. So under a properly framed program, such danger is significantly less, and the audit can proceed systematically. Then signatures are put, so responsibilities can be fixed, principal can review, he can control the progress. It guides in the succeeding year, and a properly drawn up audit program serves as an evidence in the event of any charge of negligence being brought against the auditor. Disadvantages: mechanical, being rigid and inflexible, shelter to the inefficient assistants, and kill the initiative of efficient and enterprising assistant. How the same can be eliminated, the disadvantages, by imaginative supervision of the work carried out by the assistant. The auditor must have receptive attitude as regards the assistant. The assistant should be encouraged to observe matters objectively and bring significant matters to the notice of supervisor or the principal. Here, just a minute, I'd like to discuss a question that I have shared with you. So if you just go through this question number sixth question shared on the screen, quickly read the question. So students, I hope this revision of 10 minutes have helped you to recapitulate as to what we have done. And this is the way you should understand the concepts. The key bits should be on your fingertips, and you should be able to revise the chapter in 10 minutes. So the use of audit program by the auditor is associated with certain disadvantages. but most of these can be removed by following certain concrete steps. So disadvantages, so you have to write, but along with that, certain steps. So what are those steps? These. Okay? This also you will have to write. So is it clear? In case of any doubt, please let me know. Otherwise, I'll start with chapter number 3 ka basic discussion. Quickly send in your replies. And students, I have told you that in the sheet I have uploaded, just remove these words, right? Because assistant for the auditor mein you will get what? The resources wala, management of resources. So has this revision that we have just done, quickly send in your replies whether it has helped you. Bhumika, Anmol, Swati, Sukaina, they are saying ma'am it is clear. So I hope this chapter number 2 is clear. Now let us just start with chapter number 3. Meanwhile, send in your queries or any question that you want to ask. Quickly send in your queries if any. So chapter number 3 is what? So I'll wait for another 30 seconds and then I'll start. So Sukaina is asking me, ma'am, how to remember the essay numbers. See, I always ask you to go through the module once, twice, and if required, thrice also. So you will see as and when you will proceed now, these number will get automatically registered in your mind. Like essay 300 relating to planning. You will yourself be able to answer to these numbers, like the name of the essays. But yes, for that, a reading with concentration to the entire module at least twice is required. Because then the numbers will definitely get registered. And in the exam, it most of the time students ask me, ma'am, whether to write the essay numbers. So obviously it is good that if you write the essay numbers, but again, do not write incorrect essay numbers. If you are sure, if you remember, then it is always best to write the essay numbers. Okay? Chalo. Let us start with chapter number 3, which is risk assessment and internal control, a very lengthy chapter. Like there are 3-4 lengthy chapter in your module. This is one of them. And the weightage of this chapter is again, I think 8 to 12%. But as I always say, do not leave any topic. Why? Because first of all, from the point of view of your exams also, and secondly, if you leave any topic now, then the next topic whereby the understanding of this chapter will be required now, that will also get hampered. Okay? Right? So risk assessment and internal control. So let us just try to understand the term risk assessment first. So these two things written in red are just the dictionary meanings. So you need not as such copy these. Dictionary meaning. You just send me the reply. What according to you is meant by risk? Risk. And students, now we are on chapter number 3. I'll request you, I'll repeat it that before reading from your module chapter number 3, you should be done with your chapter number 1 and 2. Then only these revisionary classes will be helpful to you. And then only whatever we have discussed, we are discussing in the class, then only you will be able to remember all that for your exams. Hana? So don't keep on piling the things that, okay, after covering first module, I'll do the entire module together. No, that is not, that will not give you good, detailed understanding, or that will not help you in remembering vis-a-vis a situation whereby after we complete the session, you complete your chapter number 1 and 2 in entirety. I'm just asking you to go through the module twice. That's it. So Swati is saying, ma'am, risk means danger. Sukaina is saying, ma'am, risk means the pause of opinion, possibility of opinion being incorrect. Swati is saying, which leads to huge losses. And Moli is saying, possibility of happening something bad. Bhumika is saying something which involves danger of loss or damage, which is absolutely correct. So abhi we are just discussing in a very layman language what is risk. So a situation involving exposure to danger or something unpleasant is what risk. What is assessment? The action of, acha, first of all, you tell me, I'll not discuss. Tell me what is meant by the term assessment. Risk we have discussed. Now, what is meant by the term assessment? Send in your replies. Ascertainment. Anmol is saying, Sukaina is saying, examination. So, assessment is the action of evaluating or estimating something. So, risk assessment. So, here the auditor will be assessing the risk related to the audit engagement. And in this chapter, we'll more specifically be discussing about Essay 315, which is what? Identifying and assessing the risk of material misstatement through understanding the entity and its environment. We will be discussing about Essay 330, which is what? The auditor's responses to assessed risk. And we will be discussing about Essay 320, which is what? Materiality in planning and performing an audit. Okay? And this entire chapter, it is based on the concept of what? Audit risk. Audit risk further consisting of, just a minute. Audit risk being function of risk of material misstatement and detection risk. Risk of material misstatement further consisting of inherent risk and control risk, and detection risk consisting of your sampling risk and non-sampling risk. So there are different kinds of risk, the understanding of which is really very important for the point of view of understanding the chapter. Also from the point of view of examination also, these form a very like good questions, these definitions. So what is meant by audit risk? Now tell me what is meant by audit risk in your opinion. Quickly send in your replies. So audit risk is the risk that the auditor gives an inappropriate opinion when the financial statements are materially misstated. So when the financial statement are materially misstated, so here we understand that misstatement which is material. And from where we get this? From Essay 320, material misstatement. Auditor is concerned with material misstatement, right? So it means the risk that the auditor gives an inappropriate opinion when the financial statement are materially misstated, that the auditor gives an opinion that financial statement reflect a true and fair view, though this is not the situation. So it is not the situation that financial statement are, I'll repeat it. So auditor gives an opinion that financially, the financial statement reflects a true and fair view, though they are what? Materially misstated, right? So it is the possibility that auditor expresses an unmodified opinion. What is modified opinion? I'm assuming that you all are aware about unmodified and modified opinion, though the same is covered in detail in your chapter number 8. So it is the possibility that auditor expresses an unmodified opinion even when the financial statements are materially misstated, right? So the auditor should not have given this opinion that financial statement reflected true and fair view, though he has given such a opinion. Is it clear? Is it clear? If you remember, tell me, where have we read this term? Let us just connect this to our previous understanding of previous two chapters. We have already studied this term audit risk. Quickly send in your replies in a topic, write that topic of chapter number 1. Quickly send in your replies. See, student, these are the revisionary classes. So by so far, though, you must be aware about what word is mentioned in what topic. Because I'm assuming that this is at least the second time you are going through the module. Anmol, you are correct. Others also please reply. Others also please reply. So we have done this topic when we did inherent limitations of audit, because there we have studied that auditor obtains a reasonable assurance, that is audit risk cannot be reduced to zero. It can be reduced to an acceptably low level. And what was the reason? Because of the inherent limitations of audit. Remember? I hope all of you remember this. Okay? Now, what is meant by the term misstatement? Let us just understand this also, because this will be used again and again. Materially misstated. Misstated is derived from the word misstatement only. So misstatement can be fraud. It can be error. Fraud is what? Intentional. And error is what? Unintentional. So misstatement means, see, if any amount or any disclosure or any classification of any item of the financial statement that is appearing in the financial statement, that has been reported in the financial statement, if that is different from what is required in the applicable financial reporting framework. So for example, as per the applicable financial reporting framework, any amount which has been expended, that should be added to the cost of the asset. However, how the same has been reported in the books of account, the same has been shown as a revenue item and it has been charged to the P&L. So the amount classification presentation disclosure of a reported item is different from the required amount classification presentation disclosure as per the applicable FRF. It is what? Misstatement. It can be due to fraud, it can be due to error. Fraud is what? Intentional, and error is what? Your unintentional. So charging of your capital expenditure to revenue is what? Misstatement. Selection of inappropriate accounting policy is again what? Your misstatement. There are other examples which are given on page number 3.5, which I give you as a homework to read before coming for the next session, which is on 14th. Okay? Okay? Now, audit risk is a function of risk of material misstatement and detection risk. Okay? So in order to understand all these circles, first of all, let us try to understand this risk of material misstatement. Audit risk, so we have already understood that it is the risk that the auditor gives an inappropriate opinion when the financial statements are materially misstated. See, here I would like to tell you one more point, that what is not included in audit risk. So the opposite of this, what we are saying, that the auditor gives an inappropriate opinion when the financial statements are materially misstated. See, giving an inappropriate opinion when the financial statements are not materially misstated. That is, auditor is saying that financial statement do not reflect a true and fair view, though they do not contain, actually they do not contain a material misstatement. So this is not covered in audit risk because chances of this happening is very insignificant. Okay. So what I have said, I'll repeat it again. So what it audit is that auditor gives an inappropriate opinion when the financial statement are materially misstated. That is, he's saying that financial statement reflect a true and fair view, though this is not the case. But the opposite of this, that the financial statement do not reflect a true and fair view, though this is not the case, this is not included in audit risk. I hope I'm able to make this clear to you. For understanding of this now, before coming for the next session, page number 3.8, last paragraph. Please come after reading this paragraph, paragraph 1.4. Okay? Is it clear? And also students, see when auditor will give an inappropriate opinion, there will be what? There can be cases of litigation on the auditor, that why has he given inappropriate opinion. There will be what? Adverse publicity of the auditor. So all these things are not part of audit risk. Audit risk is basically concerned only with the giving of inappropriate opinion. After giving an inappropriate opinion, there will be various things which will follow, like adverse publicity or any litigation against the auditor, right? All that, though that is a negative thing only, but that will not become part of audit risk. Audit risk is confined to opinion only, and that too giving an inappropriate opinion when the financial statement are materially misstated. Okay, is it clear? These 2 points are given in paragraph number 1.4 on page number 3.8. So abhi for chapter number 3, I have given you 2 homeworks. That is, you will go through through the examples given on the top of page number 3.5 and page number 3.8, whereby the last paragraph. Okay, is it clear? Now let us try to understand the risk of material misstatement. So risk of material misstatement, this is associated with the risk that financial statements are materially misstated prior to audit. So consider a situation that abhi audit has not been done. Abhi we are just having a look at the financial statement. So there can be a material. I told you we will be, as an auditor, we are concerned with only material misstatement. Material is what? Important. Okay? A mistake of, let's say, 1,000 rupees in, let's say, 1 crore may not be material, vis-a-vis a mistake of 1,000 rupees in a total of 10,000. Clear? So materiality we'll be discussing when we'll do essay 320. Abhi ke liye try to understand this. Okay? For understanding the concept of risk of material misstatement, just try to understand that abhi there is no audit. So prior to audit, very, very important term in the definition of risk of material misstatement, or these definitions are given where? In essay 200. Okay? So risk of material misstatement is the risk that financial statements are materially misstated prior to audit. Before auditor comes, there can be any misstatement in the financial statement. See, this is an inherent feature of financial statement, right? So this is what? Probability of fraud and error in financial statement before audit. Clear? Right? Tell me this risk of material misstatement. I told you that this is prior to conducting the audit. These are the financial statement, and it is the risk that there can be any misstatement in these financial statement. Tell me, is this risk related to the entity or the auditor? Quickly send in your replies. Is this related to the entity or the auditor? So I'm waiting for your replies. Students, we will devote certain portion of our session towards discussing these kind of risks, because once your understanding about these risks are clear, this entire chapter will be very easy for you to understand and learn. So it is the entity's risk, right? So it exists independently of the audit of financial statement, not influenced by the auditor. Is it clear? This risk can be of two types, which is inherent risk and control risk. If I'm leaving any topic as per your model, I'll discuss it in the next session. We are just discussing about the various kinds of risk. So the two components of risk of material misstatement are inherent risk and the control risk. Okay. So abhi we are not talking about auditor or audit risk. Abhi we are talking about the entity's financial statement and the risk whereby entity, it is related to the entity. Auditor has nothing to do with these risks. Okay. So what is inherent risk? As the name suggests, the risk which is inbuilt in the financial statement, right? For example, certain complex calculations are there. So chances are there that there can be a material misstatement. So it is inbuilt in the process of preparing the financial statement. So it is what inherent risk. So the susceptibility of an assertion to a misstatement that could be material either individually or when aggregated with other misstatement before consideration of any related control. So when I discussed about risk of material misstatement, I said what is the important term, one of the important terms there, prior to audit, right? Risk of material misstatement क्या है कि auditor hasn't come अभी, prior to audit risk of material misstatement is there. Inherent risk before consideration of internal control, abhi just consider the financial statement. Do not think that there are internal control. Abhi we are not talking about internal control. So here the risk which is inherent to these financial statement is what? Inherent risk. Is it clear? Quickly send in your replies. Itna clear hai? So susceptibility is what? Likeliness. Likeliness. ठीक है? So the susceptibility of an assertion, basically it is about a class of transaction or a disclosure to a misstatement that could be material either individually or when aggregated with other misstatement before consideration of any related controls. Is it clear? So abhi there is no internal control, right? For example, for some assertions like complex calculations, like estimates, there can always be a risk. External circumstances, for example, technological development. So there can always be a risk with respect to the financial statement. For example, let's say any provision is made or any estimates are made. So there can be a risk that the actual is different from the estimate. Technological development. For example, let's say in a mobile company, some technology was being followed and there was no impact on the going concern. The next day, that technology became outdated. The company was not able to cope up with that technology and there is an impact on the going concern now. So a risk inherent to the financial statement because financial statements were prepared as per going concern. However, now there is a doubt with respect to the continuity of the ability of the entity to continue as a going concern. So this is what related to the entity itself, right? Now, what is meant by control risk? So first of all, we discussed risk of material misstatement and we said that audit here is not to be considered. Then I said inherent risk and I said that here controls are not to be considered. Matlab abhi controls are not there. Now consider a situation that whereby you have the financial statement on which the internal control have been implemented by the management. Now, when the internal control fail to detect any material misstatement, it is what? Control risk. The risk associated with that internal control. Again, tell me, is this risk related to the audit or auditor or the entity? Quickly send in your replies. Quickly, I need answers, students. Is it related to the entity or the auditor? Control risk. We will have a look at the definition, but please tell me. So this is again related to the entity only, because you all know that the management is responsible for presentation of financial statement. That is why inherent risk is entities risk. Internal control, management is responsible for design, implementation, maintenance, and operation of the internal control. So it is again that of the management. So a risk that a misstatement could occur in an assertion about a class of transaction or disclosure, and that could be material either individually or when aggregated with other misstatement, will not be prevented or detected and corrected on a timely basis by the entity's internal control. So a risk that a material misstatement. So this is basically assertion, a misstatement that could be material. So in short, I can say for the purpose of understanding that a material misstatement will not be prevented or detected. See, either that misstatement will be prevented or it will be what? Detected and corrected. Suppose let us say that installing the CCTV cameras are what? One of the internal control of the organization. So either when the CCTV cameras have been installed, no one will steal. So it prevents that problem. Or if anyone steals, it detects and controls because corrective action will be taken. So are you able to understand? Prevented or detected and corrected on a timely basis by the entity's internal control. So again, this is a risk related to the entity. Okay. So we have seen that risk of material misstatement is what? A risk that a material misstatement that is there in the financial statement. That misstatement can be due to error or fraud. Risk of material misstatement is a function of your inherent risk and control risk, and both this risk. So inherent risk is related to the financial statement before consideration of the internal control, and control risk is what? That the internal control fails in preventing or detecting and correcting the material misstatement on a timely basis. Is it clear? Is it clear? So this all we will discuss later on. Now, just a minute. See, this you have done. So risk of material misstatement is a function of inherent risk and control risk. And audit risk is a function of risk of material misstatement and detection risk. And risk of material misstatement considers of inherent risk and control risk. Now, our understanding of detection risk is left, that I'll be doing just now. Quickly tell me, is it clear whatever we have done so far? Is it clear? So detection risk. This is the last topic that I'll be covering. So detection risk. So detection risk basically says that the risk that the procedures performed by the auditor will not detect a material misstatement that could exist. This I'm just telling you in a very simple language. The definition from the module we'll do later on. So detection risk is basically the risk that the procedures that the auditor is going to perform, those procedures are not able to detect a material misstatement. Now tell me, is this risk related to the entity or the auditor? Quickly send in your replies. Entity or the auditor? Sukaina, Bhumika, Swati, Anmol. Please send in your replies. So yes, this is the risk which is related to the auditor. Okay. Now here, when we see what is the audit risk, that auditor gives an inappropriate opinion when the financial statement are materially misstated. And we have seen that audit risk is a function of risk of material misstatement and detection risk. Detection risk is further divided as sampling risk and non-sampling risk. This I'll do in the next session. Okay. Now, you have seen that risk of material misstatement consists of inherent risk and control risk, which are not in the hands of the auditor. but these are related to whom? To the entity. Clear so far? And detection risk is the risk that the audit procedure performed by the auditor will not detect a material misstatement that could exist. And this is where it is related to auditor. Tell me, if the auditor has to reduce the audit risk to an acceptably low level, what should he try to reduce? Risk of material misstatement. What can he reduce? Risk of material misstatement or detection risk? Quickly tell me. A simple equation. Audit risk is to be reduced. Risk of material misstatement, auditor cannot reduce. Then what is the solution available? He needs to reduce the detection risk. Clear? How? By increasing his checking of the financial statements. By increasing the checking of the financial statement, that is by testing larger samples, and maybe by including experienced team members. Is it giving you a little understanding about the concept of audit risk, risk of material misstatement, and detection risk? So Bhumika and Mole, you are absolutely correct. It is the detection risk where the auditor can work. Why? Because you all have studied in chapter number 1 that audit risk cannot be reduced to zero, right? So audit risk can be reduced to an acceptably low level. And who can do that? The auditor. How? By increasing his level of checking, by taking larger samples, or by including experienced team members within his team. So quickly send in your replies. Is this topic of audit risk, risk of material misstatement, and detection risk clear? Abhi, few topics which are left in between, I'll be taking that in the next session. And I told you that very important topic we'll be covering essay 315, 330, and 320. So what is the homework that I want to give you? Specifically, so you need to read page number 3.5, the examples given at the top. Page number 3.8. Paragraph number 1.4, last paragraph, that is audit risk, what is not included, right? And apart from this, till page number 3.9, page number 3.9, you need to read in entirety whatever we have discussed. Okay? We have discussed all the topics except for sampling risk and non-sampling risk, which I'll be taking up in the next session. But apart from that, everything we have discussed, and I want you all to do this homework before coming for the next session, which is in the next week, right? So hoping that whatever we have done so far is clear to you, and also expecting all of you to go through chapter number 1 and 2 before coming for the next session, which is for chapter number 3, because only then you will be able to take advantage of these revisionary classes. And in case you have any doubt relating to chapter number 1 and 2 also, we can always discuss that in the forthcoming sessions. But yes, for discussing the doubts, you will have to go through the module twice at least. I'm telling you again and again, and in entirety, including all the questions, all the illustrations, case studies, MCQs, whatever is given in your module, right? So thank you for being a patient listener. Thank you for giving me your 2.5 hours, and see you in the next session on 14. Thank you.